There has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michele Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 248. Maybe we'll call this one, Olivia will like this, Defying Gravity. Hey, my veg your bestie. It's Michele. And you know, I think I say this to you every single time I come back from a trip or spend some time outside my own little ecosystem. But, I come home and it hits me again that the way I live, the way I function day to day in my home, what I eat, when I eat, how I move, how many steps I'm taking, where we shop or go out to eat, the language I use, what I prioritize. It's not the way for me to live. It's just a way. It's just a way I've created, sometimes on purpose, sometimes on my own, sometimes in tandem with other people, and sometimes who knows how it started. And after traveling, after seeing, a few different cities and cultures and rhythms of life, it becomes so clear, it just becomes so clear. My life could have been structured a million different ways, a million other ways. So over the past few weeks, I think if you listen all the time, if you follow on Instagram, we've been lucky enough to spend some time in Granada, Spain, Seville, Paris, Strasbourg, even Dublin for a short bit. And one of the gifts of travel, especially for those of us in, is it our second half or is it maybe more like our third of life, is that you really start to see the architecture of how people live. And I don't mean the buildings or the road systems or the metro lines, but that invisible architecture of, the underpinnings of behaviors and customs and relationships. It's not just what food people eat, but when they eat it and how long they sit at the table and whether people tend to smile on the street when they pass or avert their eyes, whether people are walking or driving, are they on bikes, how they gather, if they gather, what times of day do they gather, and are there a lot of playgrounds? In Seville, Spain, I was there with some of our grandkids, and actually all of our grandkids, and Seville, Spain seems to have just lovely playgrounds integrated into the city all over the place. So, does the music spill out onto the streets? Is it formal? Is it spontaneous? Are there people busking with instruments or acrobats on the street? Are children visible? Are older people visible? And so when I come home, it's kind of like I've got new eyes for my own world. New eyes to notice that my daily life, my rhythms, my meals, my habits, it's not just the best choice for me. It's not just what works perfectly for me. It's really what I've inherited. It's structures that I've adopted, and it's structures that I've repeated. Not the only possible structure available to me. It's just the one I've been living and the one I've been practicing. It's not that my life or that your life is the obvious, clear, logical way of dealing with the reality that you have. It's just a life that's become kind of your center of gravity. not like physics gravity, but life gravity, this kind of invisible pull of all the choices I've made, all the choices I haven't made, that shape, that kind of gravity that shapes how I move through my days in my home, my calendar, my conversations, and yes, even my meals. And that pull, that gravity can be the very thing keeping us from making the changes that we say we want. My life, my home, the gravity I've created that kind of controls everything in my world, it makes certain things very possible, and it makes certain things much less possible, to be perfectly frank. And I want you to consider, if you're someone who's looking to start or restart or re-energize, whether it's your plant-based or vegan lifestyle or any other part of your life, I want you to consider what's holding you back. It might not be knowledge or support or motivation or details about nutrition or whether you cook. It might just simply be the gravitational pull of the life that you've already built. Because these choices that we've made and repeated for years, they have a certain kind of a weight. They anchor us. They shape our identity. They create an orbit that our lives tend to follow. And maybe years ago you decided to stop drinking soda, or you started walking after dinner, or you swapped cow's milk for oat milk. And then that one choice, it didn't stay small. It gained weight. It began to pull you, and it began to be obvious how you lived. And it became, the more you repeated that decision, the more familiar and the more, I keep being drawn to this word, the more gravitational it became. And you don't even think about it anymore. And that's how orbit works. It's not just a poetic metaphor. Okay, geek alert, you're listening to someone with an art history background. But these structures become echoed in our physical lives, and then they bounce back. There's a famous quote supposedly by Winston Churchill. I don't know if he invented it or if he repeated it, but he said, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." And I believe he said it in the middle of the war during a debate about whether to rebuild or how to rebuild the House of Commons in Westminster after it had been damaged. And Churchill said that he believed the shape of the old chamber with its confrontational two-sided layout had a profound effect on the adversarial nature of British debate. British parliamentary debate. And it wasn't just where they debated, it was actually how they debated. The architecture had reinforced the behavior. And this same concept is true in our daily lives. I'd love you to take a look at your world, your home, your offices, your gardens, your places of work, and see if you can see that reflection in your daily lives that we shape. We shape our choices, we build routines, we create structures, intentionally or not. And then those structures, those places, those habits begin to shape us. And that could be your pantry, it could be your calendar, it could be your phone, it could be your Netflix queue, it could be your weeknight habits. They are not neutral things. They're shaping how we live. Okay, maybe not you. They're shaping how I live. They're shaping how I eat. They're shaping when I eat and with whom I eat and how I rest and how I connect. And just like Winston Churchill warns, once those structures are in place, they don't just reflect your values, they reinforce them. And they may be reinforcing values that you used to have. Every choice, even the ones, especially the ones we repeat, they start building something around us, and pretty soon that something starts building us and leading us. And so do the non-choices, for that matter. We don't always think of it this way, but not deciding, that also creates a pull. Something you haven't decided to stop eating. Maybe it's dairy or cheese, or maybe you haven't decided to make decisions ahead of time about your weekend get-togethers, or you haven't told your partner or your friends that you're trying something new. That not deciding, that silence, it has a certain mass to it as well. And it keeps you in orbit. It may feel like you're just floating, but you're not. You're not neutral. You are being pulled by past patterns unless you specifically opt out of them. In this universe, it all has a gravitational pull. Now, some of the strongest forces in our lives, okay, I'm going to talk about me. Some of the strongest forces in my life isn't even my own choice. It's what I've inherited from my family, from my friends, from my husband's family, from culture, from stories we've never questioned, from towns I've moved into. And some of those inherited choices, we absolutely love them. And others, well, the idea of meat being obvious at every meal, or thinking that eggs are essential to a brunch on the weekend with friends and family. Or maybe it's thinking of rest or naps as being lazy, or avoiding hard conversations about things that might hurt someone else's feelings. All these ideas might be keeping you stuck, and I want you to hear it. I want you to hear this. Okay, I'm talking to me again. You can love your family and still choose differently. You can respect your culture and still evolve it. You can feel nostalgic and you can still move forward. You know, I have these beautiful, to me they're beautiful, egg cups, a collection of egg cups. My mother had all of these egg coddlers, which are lovely. And I have some silver egg cups from another side of the family, and they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful, and I don't eat eggs. And sometimes I think, can I repurpose them? I don't know what I would put in there. Sometimes I pull them out on Easter and use them to hold up like Polish wooden Easter eggs. Anyway, we have things that anchor our thoughts in certain ways, and we can still feel nostalgic and love and treasure them and still move forward. Because the point is not to throw anything away. It's just to notice. It's just to notice where you're orbiting. Notice what kind of pull things have on you, and then decide whether you want to choose it on purpose. So a couple of you always contact me and ask me, what should your homework be this week from the podcast? Which is funny. You don't have to do any homework. But if you wanted to, think about for a few minutes today, or grab a journal or make a voice memo on your phone, and just think about what choices have I made specifically in the last, well, depending on your age, the last year or 5 years or 10 years that shaped who you are today. You know, for example, probably the most impactful choice I ever made was who I married and my kids, because those choices made thousands of cascading domino sorts of choices afterwards. And some of them have had to be, rethought along the way. But some things seemed obvious along the way, and some things had to be completely reimagined along the way. And knock wood, thank goodness, they've all stuck around and we're still all together. But these are choices that throughout the years have sometimes been more complicated than others, because other choices get made. Where people live, how they live, what jobs people have, whether other people are marrying or moving. all kinds of things have changed my life that are partially my call and partially not. But what decisions do I have tremendous control over, but I'm not making right now? And are some of those choices actually still pulling me away from a future that maybe I want a little more control over? What choices did I inherit from my family of origin, or from my colleagues or friends, or from a culture that I am a descendant of that I absolutely love, and which other inherited choices are keeping me a little stuck? And if you're someone here to start, restart, or re-energize your plant-based life, what is a small, intentional plant-based choice that I can make today that will start to shift my orbit? You know, you aren't going to believe this. Well, maybe you will, but I never really used a lot of milk in my life. And then every once in a while I would want a serving of cereal or something like that. And the only person that really used milk was my husband, and he just liked it for his coffee, so he had this oat-based creamer, which wasn't really perfect for putting on cereal. Plus, it didn't have quite as much protein as I would have liked if I'm adding moisture to my cereal. So only in the last month or so have I made sure that I have organic soy milk in the house. Okay, now it's all set. Now it's completely all set. I don't think it'll ever be something I have to think about again. But their soy milk is quite high in protein. The organic soy milk is, I think, a much better choice than just plain old soy milk. And now it's a small, plant-based, intentional choice, which also serves my concern to make sure that we have enough protein for my older bones and my older muscles. And it's a shift that was recently made in my life. What's yours? What's a small thing that you've been thinking, oh yeah, I need to do that. I wonder where I get that. I wonder if that... So now, if there's a better choice for my occasional overnight oats, if there's a better choice than soy milk, organic soy milk, I'll be able to shift it too. But I've already made a big intentional choice in the way my morning cereal was orbiting. So from the very mundane, banal to the more, all-encompassing or the more grandiose ideas of your life, what are the choices that are keeping you stuck, that you've inherited? And what are the choices that have really supported you over the years? Just noticing where gravity is, where the gravitational pull of the architecture you've created in your life is. So you've heard it here loads of times. There's no perfect way to be vegan. There's no one right way to live this life. There's only the gravitational pull of your past choices and the pull of what you choose next. So remember, you're not behind. You're not too late. You're simply inhabiting the gravitational pull of a life you've been making. And the good news, you can shift it. You can rebuild it. You can choose a new center of gravity, one choice at a time. And if you're ready to start or restart or re-energize your plant-based practice, this is your moment. This is, no matter when you're listening, this is always your moment. And I'll be right here cheering you on as you build a life where you can veg your best.
Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.